December 24th, 1971. A plane soars high above the lush canopy of the Amazon rainforest. On board, 91 people prepare for the holidays. Among them is a teenage girl, full of dreams, sitting next to her mother. Moments later, the sky turns dark. Lightning flashes. The plane shudders violently, and then it disintegrates midair. From 10,000 feet, a young girl begins to fall. What happened next would become one of the most astonishing survival stories in history. This is the story of Juliane Koepcke. Juliane Margaret Koepcke was born on October 10, 1954, in Lima, Peru. Her father, Hans William Koepcke, was a German zoologist. Her mother, Maria Koepcke, was a well-known ornithologist. She learned to identify animals, avoid predators, and navigate dense jungle from an early age. She was an only child, intelligent, resourceful, and brave. But none of her wilderness training could have prepared her for the nightmare she was about to face. On Christmas Eve, Juliane and her mother boarded Lanza Flight 508 from Lima to Pucallpa. They were eager to reunite with Juliane's father for the holidays. Their aircraft, a Lockheed L-188 Electra. Their departure, around 11:45 a.m., slightly delayed. The flight was expected to last just an hour, but less than halfway through, the aircraft encountered a massive thunderstorm over the Amazon basin. Turbulence rocked the cabin. Overhead bins burst open. Passengers screamed. Then, at approximately 12:36 p.m., a lightning bolt struck the aircraft. One of the wings tore away. The fuselage split apart. The plane began to disintegrate in the sky. Juliane, still strapped to her seat, was ripped from the aircraft and flung into open air. She fell from 10,000 feet, nearly 3 kilometers, through thick, humid jungle. Still belted to a row of seats, Juliane tumbled through the sky. Somehow, the seats may have acted like a parachute, slowing her descent just enough. She crashed through the jungle canopy and slammed into the forest floor. When she opened her eyes, it was the next morning. Her collarbone was broken. Her right eye swollen shut. She had deep cuts on her leg and arms. One sandal remained on her foot. Her glasses were gone, but she was alive. Juliane called out for her mother, over and over. No response. All she had from the wreckage was a small bag of candy. That was her only food. Drawing on her childhood training at Panguana, Juliane decided to follow a stream. Water, she knew, would eventually lead to people. She limped through the rainforest. The days were scorching, the nights freezing. She battled mosquitoes, leeches, and infection. Flies laid eggs in her wounds. Maggots began to swarm in the rotting flesh of her leg. She poured gasoline from the wreckage into the wound to kill them. It burned, but it worked. Her clothes were shredded. She was weak, dizzy, and increasingly delirious. But she kept walking, kept believing. On the 10th day, Juliane saw a canoe by a small shack near the Shibonya River. The shack belonged to local lumber workers, who returned that evening and found her. Barely standing, covered in insect bites, and weighing just a fraction of her former self. They cleaned her wounds and took her by canoe to a nearby village. From there, she was flown to a hospital in Pucallpa. When the news broke, the world was stunned. Juliane Koepcke had survived a plane crash from 10,000 feet and 10 days alone in the jungle. 91 others had perished, including her mother. Juliane recovered physically, but the emotional scars would stay with her for life. She later returned to the crash site with a documentary crew to help recover the remains of the aircraft and some of the victims. She went on to study biology, like her parents, and earned a PhD. She returned to Peru, where she worked as a librarian and mammologist, quietly rebuilding her life. In 2011, she published her memoir, When I Fell from the Sky. Juliane credited her survival to both luck and the jungle survival skills she had learned as a child. Juliane Koepcke is more than a survivor. She is proof that even in our most hopeless moments, something inside us fights to stay alive. She fell from the sky and walked out of the jungle, alive. If real-life survival stories like this captivate you, hit the like button and subscribe.